All right, we are live. Welcome back, everybody. This is something that we've been doing for the past couple months here, where we go live with two of my friends that are also scent work judges in multiple organizations, and we take live Q&As from you guys, from the viewers. So I'm going to let Monique start this off because we had a discussion with prior to this. Some of her students had some questions about some lower level things that they've witnessed recently at a trial. And as this progresses, hopefully we will have a guest join us tonight, something that I think everybody will enjoy, and we'll just kind of pick it up. One friendly reminder, please, when you post your questions, do it in the feed and not underneath the post, because uh, I was constantly going back and forth checking my phone to make sure we didn't miss anybody's questions. But if you have a question you'd like to ask, just post it in the feed, and I'll just turn it over to Monique at this time.
Yep. So I think one of the things that that would be really good for everybody to kind of understand is the different when setting different hides at the different levels, and what is the intention at each of the different levels. And again, it can fluctuate between the different organizations, whether we're talking CPE, AKC, UKC, CWAGs, MECSW, etc. But what does that mean as far as what is the goal for each level? And then Lori, Jeremy, as far as when you're thinking about that goal, what does then the requirement of how far to set different hides, especially when you get past just one hide being set, where that complication comes in depending on the level of the dogs, right? So when we're looking at level 1 or the beginning levels, it's ultimately, can your dog find odor, right? And as long as your dog can find odor, you've successfully passed that whole concept. And is it under different circumstances, containers, interiors, exteriors, vehicles, right? And then once you kind of get past that level, then you start to get into some complications of things. So is it the convergence of those two odors, right? And then how complex should that be in those levels and based on the different venues? So when we're talking about CPE, for instance, when we get from level 1 to level 2, the challenge itself is basically being able to move on from one hide to the next. So as a judge, you have to kind of consider that to say, how close should those two hides be? Because ultimately, it's not to challenge the dog, right? It's, can they understand to move from one hide to the next, right? When you start to expand beyond that, level 3 as an example, then we start building in a little harder of a convergent problem, right? Because now you have 3 different odors, and you may potentially be using the same odor, as you get between 3, 5, and C, right? And can they discern both two birch hides that are right next to each other, as an example? Obviously, that's a much higher level than 3, but you get the point, right? So, Lori, Jeremy, when you're looking at doing that, what do you think when, especially those lower levels, the novice, advanced in AKC, level 1 versus level 2 in NACSW, etc. Would love to hear your opinions as far as how close those should be.
For me, I think for both CPE and AKC, level 1 is just, can your dog recognize odor? I don't think there should ever be anything that's a particularly difficult search at any element. I think it should be very straightforward. Does the dog walk into the search area and recognize odor? As you move up to advanced in AKC and level 2 in CPE, again, I don't think that's supposed to be a complicated search with converging odor or complex odor problems. It's really, can your dog find two odors? Can your dog find 2 hides? And how easy is it for you to navigate the space? I personally try to keep the hides as far apart as possible at that level, just because again, it's not supposed to be challenging the dog's ability to solve a complex odor problem. It's really just, can the dog find 2 hides?
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think I'll second what Lori said. When we look at these levels, like I said earlier, I kind of look at them like a ladder. It's steps on a step ladder. If we have a short step ladder, only has 3 steps. The first 2 steps shouldn't be that complicated, right? The biggest problem is how to multitask and go from one odor to the second odor in level 2. But level 1, sometimes I get, whether it's level 1 in CPE or novice in AKC, I'll get looks. Hey, it's novice. Most time we're starting young dogs. You're getting in there, you're getting involved in the sport. It should be simple. It should also take your nerves off as a handler. So reality is, me personally, I don't start adding challenges in until level 3 or excellent.
Yep.
Novice and advanced, there's not a whole lot of difference with. So
Nope.
I try to keep them easy, but fun. And because this is where you're trying to get somebody looped into the sport and also keep them motivated as a new handler. So, folks, if you take a look at our camera, we are joined by the great Randy Hare. I will say this: Randy Hare here is a guy that he's joining us tonight, so we can actually talk about how to properly utilize toy reward. I can tell you that the beauty of Randy's training is that his system or his method of training is that it can be modified and adapted to anything, and he's continued to always improve. And he didn't get stuck in one way of teaching. But when I was first exposed to his way of training, um, it was like going from the dark ages to modern time. So in my mind, when you say the name Randy Hare, he revolutionized detection. But I'm going to actually turn it over to him and let him talk a little bit about the power of toy reward and how to properly utilize a toy for scent work.
Your $50 is in the mail. for the kind words. No, I appreciate you, Jeremy. I appreciate all you're doing, and even you guys who are in nose work and all. It used to be it was just about police work, and when nose work started, all of a sudden there's a different perspective out there. There's a whole new group of people who are learning different ways. And the thing about learning different ways is you come up with something that somebody else didn't think about that maybe you can help them with. And while I think that I probably passed that idiot stage many years ago, a day doesn't go by that I don't learn something in this business. And you never stop learning. You never stop learning. About the time you think you've got it figured all out, you realize somebody comes along and humbles you. And I've been humbled many times. Somebody will come along and humble you, and you realize more to learn. Maybe I got some more to learn. Open your mind to that. And even when I came out and did video 2005, God, that was back in 2005, not everything, but a lot of stuff has changed between then and now. Terms like matching law, terms like value. If we want to increase value to something, and I had a lot of people say, no, he's not doing classical conditioning. He's not doing operant conditioning. This is Pavlovian. And back then, I didn't know who Pavlov was. I had to study that and find out who he was and what he did. And then I was able to understand what they were talking about. Steve White was one of them that mentioned it. And who was the other one? Bob Bailey was the other one that mentioned it. Two people that I highly respect in this business and have an awful lot of knowledge in order to offer. And I would highly recommend, talking to them. But enough about myself. You know what I'm about. I'm not here to, y'all doing it wrong. You got to do it this way. I don't ever do that. I will share ideas with you and ask you your opinion of different ideas. And then we move on from that. Either you'll try it or you won't. Either I'll try it or we won't. But it's important that we talk. It's important that we share ideas with each other. And I appreciate y'all being judges and furthering this because it's needed. I kept hearing the term back before, while it was starting, that we're giving the dogs their noses back. God, what a statement. You think dogs, when they're born, for the first 10 days, the nose is working. Is that nature's way of showing the dog that your nose is going to be an integral part of your? So to teach them to find something with their nose in order to bring it into their being, the dog already knows how to do that. They already know how to track. If you don't, take the foo-foo dog that you got there in the living room, have somebody hold it while you run 50, 60 yards off out in the woods. See how long it takes him to be standing next to you. They know how to do it already. The problem is getting them to do it under the guise of what we want, what we have to do to be successful. And that's where all the mumbo jumbo starts. That's where all the arguments start. That's where everything starts. This is not that hard, but you have to realize the easy part of it and then move that forward. Sometimes we over intellectualize stuff or we overthink stuff, and it causes us to go in the totally wrong direction with that particular dog that we might have at the time. You find a dog or you have a dog that you find something that is extremely important to them, enough to transfer that value from what they're crazy about to the substance that you are going to find. And you are religious about paying that substance, whether it's the food or whether it's a toy, at the source, not in the source. They never learn to release their energy into the source. They're taught to be there and come to find out that the toy is not that important. One of my cats just hissed at me. We got to talk about dogs sometime, okay? Jesus. What was I saying? Where was I? The toy at the source. Yeah, you have to remember that it's not necessarily the toy that the dog's crazy about. It's the game that involves that toy. You drive up to your house and it's got a fence going around the front yard. You see your trusted dog out there. The trusted dog sees you. And it's kind of disheartening when the dog sees you. He turns out and goes in the opposite direction. Where's he going? To get the ball, to where he brings back and he's chomping and he throws it toward your foot and you back up, throws it toward your foot and you back up. He wasn't messing with the ball all day until you showed up. Who is the trigger to the game? Us. And if the only place we ever play it is at that source, guess where the value tends to transfer to? Now, once I do that, I don't take that toy and play with it out in the yard and throw it just for shits and giggles. I don't throw it out in the water and let him swim out there just for giggles. It's this toy means we're doing this task. And you will get it along with the game at that source until I pull you away from it. The funny thing is when you pull the dog away from the source, he drops the ball because the value is being at the source. Because we always pay him right there. And in the 12 years I was in law enforcement, all the cases that I made, all the stops I made with huge loads of dope, huge loads of money, I never once had a false indication. You want to know why? The dog never learned to falsely indicate. I've had cops come in, when do you start them on vehicles? I said, I don't. I ain't interested in finding vehicles. But if the dog smells the odor and happens to be on a vehicle, where do you think he's going to go? Especially if he has that understanding. And when he does, I have to deduce that maybe there's a reason. Somebody about to go to jail. Just kidding. But yeah, I never had to worry about a false. Anytime the dog smelled it, I deliberately manipulated his expectation to believe that when he gets to the source, he's going to get that game. And I always did. No variable schedule of reinforcement, maybe a variable ratio of reinforcement, but he's going to get paid every time he does it right, especially in the training part, to where when I get to a competition type level and I want to save as much time as I can, I'll add something to the reward progress or progression where I'm rewarding him, creating a game, and I'll pop him on the side a couple of times, just petting him on the side to add that to the game. When I get into a trial or somewhere I'm going to certify, as soon as the dog finds it and gets there, pop, pop twice, and we're off and running for the next one. In other words, I create a little bit of a bridge there, kind of like the clicker, but a little bit of a bridge where I want him to understand, yeah, it's the same thing. But when I'm practicing, he gets paid every time. I want him to expect to get paid every time he's correct. And through that, I get accuracy and reasonableness. Gee, I'm tired now. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Again, in the nose work part, utilizing the food, yeah, I can't come on here and say that it's bad. Some of these police dogs could probably work with food. But if I find a treat that that dog really likes that he'll work for, the only time he ever sees that treat is at that source within within the aroma of that source. He's the expert, not us. He is the expert at smelling the odor, following it to the source, giving me that, I call it affectionately, the bitch better have my money look. You know, they'll find it, they'll get there expecting you to come pay, and pay I do every time. Now, I don't know if that helps or not, or we'll open up some more debate or questioning, but Jeremy, why? Well, what, man?
Well, yeah. I think when it pertains to nose work, utilizing toy for reward is kind of a new topic for a lot of people. And I'll watch some webinars, but some of the webinars I've watched, one recently, they're showing video clips of Susan Garrett, who's an amazing agility instructor, but this isn't agility, and there's no value partying at the start line or the finish line, depending on how you look at it, after the search is over.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the biggest questions, and I guess one of the biggest questions I hear is, how do we do it? How do we do it? Or I'll be at a trial and somebody will have a phenomenal lab or phenomenal German Shepherd, and I'll say something about, they'll go out there and search area and like, oh, my dog was, there's a toy in the search area, the dog goes crazy, or the dog's so worried about what's going on in the bushes, and they're using food, but I'm like, hey, that dog's crazy about a toy. You ever think about going to a toy reward? And they're concerned. Like, I wouldn't be able to control my dog, but that's not the case. And just like you said, we have actually, we've got a dog here in this county. Me and my buddy were talking about it the other day. He likes to bite people. So, anytime he's out of that cruiser and he's searching with the Kong in his mouth. And guess what? As soon as he hits on odor, what falls out of that mouth? That Kong on a rope, right? And then when he gets an odor and he gives his final alert or whatever it is, there it is. That Kong is back in the game, because that Kong really doesn't have any meaning. It's basically a pacifier while that dog's running around. But you can see as soon as that head snaps, he picks up odor, falls right out.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guy by the name of Steve Davis once over in West Monroe Police Department, and I forget the dog's name, but it was a big shepherd, and he didn't even like himself. Yeah, but he was trained, on the Kong, utilizing the Kong. But the handler was Kong out of his mouth. He would continue on the search, got the Kong in his mouth. Then you'd hear that Kong. It's a very distinctive sound when he drops that Kong, and it just kind of bumps, and he picks it up as he walks by and puts it back in his pocket, and the dog continues on and finds a source. My point being is the game never happened unless he was at the source. Some of these guys having to string the dogs up and everything to let go of the toy, it's because the toy is not important to him. It's the game, and he's willing to take the ass whipping for that game. It's one of the saddest things I've ever seen, but I've had handler after handler come to me and say, Randy, I'm going to wind up on Fox News and CNN for kicking this dog's ass because I can't get the toy away from him. I said, did it ever occur to you that maybe the toy's not what he wants the game? And if you create that game at the source and nowhere else but at the source, the moment you take him away from him, he starts dropping the ball on his own in order to get back where the value is, the source. If we have that mindset to them, then we can work on our intricacies in the competition as far as how long is this going to take? How long do I really want to, reinforce him on the game, which is, to me, I drop the ball down there. I've got a tether on it. I give him 2 or 3 different tugs. I let go of the tug, grab the collar, and I pull him away. He drops the ball. I pick it back up, and we're off again. But might be a fluke, I don't know. But I've seen that with all of them. If it means that much to them, they want to find the direct avenue to be able to get it along with that game. If it doesn't have the game, they'll set it over there. Have you ever seen that dog that didn't want to let go of it? You put him in the kennel, shut the door, walk away. You look at him on the camera, and his drop's there on the floor. He's not playing with it anymore. The game's gone. But the moment you go to get him out of the cage, what's he do? Let's wrap. You know, when you understand that and you change that, and that's where the Pavlovian association comes into play, is because we are changing the value from the toy in the game to being at the source. And he's not going to rest till he gets to it. That's the reason I don't have false indications. I never taught him any other way or added a bunch of gobbledygook to what I was teaching him. The wolf smells the rabbit, follows it to the source because the gradient is different when the weak part to the strong part. There's a reason they don't go in the opposite direction. See, if they went in the opposite direction all the time, the species would be extinct. So they're able to go in the right direction. They're able to find the rabbit, which my last name being Hare, you understand I have to be careful with this one. Once the wolf catches up to the rabbit, catches it, kills it, he brings it into his being. They've been surviving like that for years. There's one expert, and it's the dog. Us figuring out a way to transfer his value from one to another, something he likes to something we like, is where all this is. And if you think about it, that's all we're really doing. But sometimes if we confuse the dog by him getting the game and the toy out there where we're doing bite work. You see, I've seen people take a sleeve and just roll up a jute thing. Everybody seen it? And use that as their reward for finding the source. Works, but he's got a value toward jute in two different places now. One here where we're doing detection, one here where we're doing bite work. But it's a different type toy. And if you change the dynamic, tennis balls. You see me throwing the tennis balls over their head while they're searching, or when they make the find, or before they make the find. Everything I can do to just that ball has no value unless the game is attached to it, and the game is attached at the source, not with it. You don't let them get up there. They get there, they give you that like that. I'm here. Hey, I mean, it's something you don't understand. I'm here. That's all I want to see at the right place. And we're going to go over and have a game at that place. Only at that place. Until I let go of it, grab them by the collar, pull them back, and they know that we're going to another place to make another find, to have another game. Any questions? Any comments? It's something to think about. It's something to experiment with. And it's something that you play with. You start seeing a little bit different action going on there. Maybe not for all dogs, but certainly for some. The biggest thing I've seen about the dogs in nose work is they don't necessarily have dogs that are crazy about it. They have a dog that's their pet, and they want to do something with it. God love them, and I'm glad they're doing it. They find something that dog likes, they get him out there, and they work with him, and they train with him, and they play with him, and they get some ribbons. I love it. And but have open minds. Have everybody else have open minds. Remember, there's something that dog loves, something he will work for. That's what you use. If you're using something he don't want to work for, if you're trying to use bananas or something, maybe they're not going to work quite as hard for the bananas. Whatever he likes. It could be a frozen turd. The problem is they usually thaw out and it's going to cause a mess. But if that's what that dog likes, we're going to find a way to utilize. Just kidding about the turd. But whatever that dog likes, we're going to use to do a little Pavlovian conditioning on to change the value from the toy itself to the game, which happens at the source. Yeah.
All right, so we're getting some comments, and I guess I still had to go back to my phone because for whatever reason, when I click this to show on the stream, it's not coming through. So we are getting some positive feedback. It says awesome, Randy, miss you. That was Foster. Kim Dykstra, who is also a judge. Love that, sir. I'm listening to what you're saying as I'm bringing my puppy to his nosework class. He's my 6th nosework dog, and my dog loves this game and has done it so much for them. So here's a question. How do you get your dog to become a toy versus food reward dog? I've tried. My dog plays with me with a tug, but I've tried incorporating the same and those work, and she will just look at me and won't interact with the toy.
So how do you get them to do it? You don't. That's either there or it's not.
Right.
It either happened when the sperm hit the egg or it didn't. But don't be ashamed just to use food. If that's what you got and that's what the dog loves, love your dog. You know what I mean? Pay him what he likes in order to do this. Go ahead.
I think the easiest way to go about it is your dog. So when you're looking at your dog, what's going to motivate that dog the most? And probably the easiest way to answer this is we'll ask Randy here what he looks for when he's picking a dog to do detection. Because if my dog just plays with a toy a little bit, but isn't crazy about it all the time, I'm not going to use toy reward. It should be the most important thing in that dog's life. When you break out the toy, like I've got a little lab right now, I'm playing with her teeth chomp like a Malinois coming after that tennis ball. Well, guess what? She's not going to be a food dog, even though she is super food motivated. If she's lunging at me, chomp, 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 and it looks like a little mini Mally there, I'm going to go with toy. But if your dog, so many times I think people misconstrue what a high drive dog is. I've watched other instructors online, well-known instructors. My dog's so high drive. I'm not trying to be a butthole here. It's not high drive. You know, I wish we had videos. Randy, do you still have Denali?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we'll have to get a clip of this dog. When we talking high drive, I love this dog of his. It may end up disappearing one day and loaded up in my car. When she's searching and she hits that rack, it looks like a professional boxer throwing a jab. Like that dog is so adamant about. So, I mean, same dog. She would probably peel the paint off a locker. And as soon as you open that locker for her to go in there, bang, 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 that head is in there. You know when you're testing your dog or working your dog if they're going to be food or toy. Not all dogs have toy reward. Don't there's a lot of great dogs out there doing detection for food. I mean, USDA, look what they do with the Beagles and Labs, and those are all food reward dogs, and they work very, very hard for food. If it's going to be a food reward dog and you're going to do long, detailed searches, then we'll talk about manipulating food, but that's another topic. But Randy, what do you personally look for when you're trying to find a dog that will work?
Well, it's a little different in ours. You know, we try to find a dog that already has 70% in the dog's ability and drive and motor in order for us to coach the other 30% without having to take too long. Now, in the nose work community, they got dogs they know it's going to take longer because they haven't found something yet that dog really likes. Sometimes just the search itself is reinforcing enough to the dog to get them to understand what's going on. And we certainly want to afford them that opportunity. And then other times it's, hey, I've got this. I'm going to be a distraction, because they understand now that they're not getting it until they get to the source. And if they don't do it, we just stop right there. We're out of there. Didn't get the game. They're going to figure out what they have to do to get what they want. I think it was Steve White once said, the dog is interested in one thing: what's in it for me? And sometimes something that's in it for this dog won't be in it for that dog. Find what your dog likes. Find a way to utilize it in this training and pay them when they're at the source, not away from it. If I back time my dog, kind of like you do in bite work, and put a couple of substance in there, I'll actually pull them away. Yeah, I'm acting like, come here, come to the source. And I just stay there and keep doing this. They're trying and trying and trying. And finally they said, wait a minute. Let me try this thing that worked a while ago. And they go back over to the source, and I follow them over there and then pay them at the source. Then later on, I'll wait and do it a little bit longer. See, that's your variable. How long it takes you to get there. How many times you're going to pay them or give them that game while they're there. How long are they going to have to search for it? And, but the constant is they get paid every time that I can. There are going to be certain circumstances, at least in the law enforcement community, where you can't. Understand that. because it has to do with being safe. And that dog gives an indication if they know anything about dogs, only the dope's there, but they know that situation escalates. See, so for me to reward the dog there, because everything we did up until that point was shaping for this time where he can catch the odor, follow it to the source, not just because there's a car sitting there. Follow it to the source and then expect me to pay with it. Don't always, but I try to. At the very least, once I put him away and I secure the scene, I get another unit out there, I'm going to get the dog back out, let him go back around there, let him bang it, I'm there to pay. And we're going to have a little party right there. Not way off back here, not out in the woods somewhere, right there where that source is. It never happens until where that source is at. And when I pull them away from there, I want them to understand we're not going back to this one, we're going to another one. And you can do that just through repetition. To give the dog a whole bunch of extra repetitions to go back to the same one, cutting your own throat. If you're going to pair something together like the food and the toy and have the dog find them, don't expect him not to try to find the food if he smells it. But if that food, if he smells it and he knows he can't get it until he's there, that's where I'm going to pay every time. What do you think, Jeremy?
So Sarah, and Sarah was at last year when we was at your place and did that workshop. Sarah's the lady, the blonde haired lady that had the German Shepherd. She said, my dog loves his ball. I have trouble rewarding at source because of small search areas. Plus, I'm not very good at handling the ball and him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's got a big, strong dog, a nice dog. And granted, that is good enough. But if she can't handle the dog because of the dynamics of it, the dog's bigger than she is, then go back to your food. Go back to the food, pay them when they're there, get off and go find the next one. Sometimes it's too cumbersome if you have a dog that is, because they need to be brought up in the beginning by realizing, where's the ball? My God, I can't find it. And they go up and they finally find the source and that thing drops. I don't give them a time to go away. We're not going away from the source to play over here. We play right there. So I'll get around behind the rack, drop that ball down in there, and we're going to create a game right there, so much so that they stay there with that in their mouth. And I'm just tweaking it, tweak, tweak, tweak. I see them doing the same thing with a sleeve, when they're doing bite work. They'll have a line tied onto it. The dog will bite to sleep, and they'll be out there giving little jerks. You're creating a game in that object and building value in that object. And that's a lot of the reason that the dogs get equipment oriented, because they're building too much value in that equipment, both at the helper and away from the helper. But the alternative to that is to catch the dog without the sleeve. Not as comfortable. Do we get better quality training? Probably, but find somebody that's going to give that up.
Yeah.
And there's only so many winos.
So I think from a nosework standpoint, how do we get the mechanics of, basically taking people that have very little training experience and getting them to effectively utilize a toy reward when we have dogs that are in our classes that are actually super, super toy motivated, probably even some of these dogs more toy motivated than food motivated, but, trying to get handlers to help with their mechanics of rewarding, because again, it's really difficult to make it happen at source and not away from source.
Well, the dog's got to understand first that that's what's going on. And in order to get that, you manipulate the environment conducive to what it is you want to teach. Now, when I say manipulate the environment, I'm going to create an environment where the dog can figure out fairly quickly what he's supposed to do in order to get the reward. And when I go up there and I give the dog, that reward, and I start that game with him where I'm not pulling hard. I don't want to go to war with him, even though I know that's what he likes. If the only game he gets is a simple little tug on that rope, he'll sit there the whole time. And every breath he's taking, he's taking in that odor that's at that source. No more than 3-4 inches away, he's at that source. And if he knows what that is when he gets away from it and the game goes, so does the value on the ball. Like you pulling up to the front yard, The dog runs off and goes and grabs his ball, comes back and says, let's play. Let's get it. He's recognized that dad's home. Let the mailman come up. It's a different game. Huh? Yeah. UPS comes up, different game. Dad drives up. Hey, come on, let's play. Have you ever seen that dog or that border collie dog? That photo of that or video of that border collie going up to the statue and dropping the ball and backing off? Well, that's kind of long range drive, but most of those border collies have a short range drive too, which means I like that close range game. And if they like the close range game, I can do all of the training at one box where I'm giving that game at that source. Pull him away from it. He runs back over there and gets back to it. Guess what? Game again. And then I'm going to take the whole world and put it down at the rack. And I don't know if y'all know what that is, but it's a place where we manipulate the environment. I want to bring the whole world into that room before I take the dog out into the world. If I take him out into the world too fast, I run myself the risk of inviting failure and then wondering what to do about it afterwards. If the dog is ready to proceed to the next step, we proceed to the next step. If he don't, then we don't. And sometimes if he shows us, I really don't want to do this, I would rather go out there and chase that damn squirrel. Then maybe he's not best suited for what we want to do in law enforcement, but there's probably not going to be any squirrels where he's doing the nose work thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it doesn't happen overnight. You don't just change rewards. There has to be an understanding that you shape without causing, conflict. Because believe it or not, this is all about the game, if it's the toy, and it's all about the food. The cool thing about food is when you give it to them and they swallow it, it's gone out of the way. But if everybody's using food in there, you're going to get crumbs everywhere. But still in all, the food doesn't mean as much to the dog as they want to treat. Is everybody there?
Now, yeah, you froze up for a little bit. So, I'll kind of touch back on Sarah real quickly because, and we did show a quick clip last month of you running the dogs on the rack. It was an odor clip, but there was also some information I wanted to get out there. Randy, I'm probably going to come visit you real soon. I've got a puppy I'm really excited about. So, well, German Shepherd, but I don't know. This one, hey, I haven't been this excited about a puppy since I had that little Mal.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ever see
because
his
I
little
wanted
Mal that he had?
do what?
Did y'all ever did y'all ever see his little Mal that he had, guys? A beast.
Yeah.
She was a beast.
We found some video footage of her recently.
Yeah, I think you do somewhere. I'd like to see that pop up. She was an awesome little dog.
Yeah, she was.
I was really hoping that Joey would repeat that breeding. But yeah, she was. So this little shepherd, and I just wasn't even looking for a dog, but I had her 2 days before I went to the conference and pulled her out in front of a class and just sat out 2 little pods there and had her working in front of 100 people, and she's doing her job. She's super social, super confident, seems to have all the right balance of everything. So I'm really excited about what I could do with this one. And it's nice to have that dog when you go and travel, that you can actually take places and participate in things you like. Because that last little female I got, she didn't like too many people. So she's going to play IGP a little bit, but I understand that some nose work. They say that we're good with reactive dogs, but Ella's more like the old school police dogs that has an inner circle and everybody else is getting bit. So this puppy I'm super excited about. So I kind of like to bring her out, and maybe we can get a few clips that we can post up here so people can see more in detail what you're talking about. It'd be really nice if Lauren was nice enough, because I saw her pop out there when I said I was going to take her dog. If she could maybe get us a clip we could post of Omen. And I want to touch back on Sarah. So Sarah, I think Sarah is at master level now, and she's talking about the search area being too small. Now that dog is nice, and she does reward with the toy, but that dog sometimes, and one of the things that that I have discovered and going to workshops and training is, they say dopamine spikes with the anticipation of the reward. Now, with a dog as high drive as Sarah Shepherd, even a level 5 in CPE, or even some of the master searches in AKC, especially containers, is such a small search area.
Hmm.
Uh, I would say, you know, she could get by with the first couple hides, verbal reinforcement, good boy, find another, and then give the reward at the end. The dog's finishing with the tug at source, and the dog would be just fine. I wouldn't do it in training, but I would do it in trial day. It'll shave time off your timer, and she
Hmm.
doesn't have to worry so much about manipulation of the toy. But one thing that Joey made me do years ago when I had that little dog is, when I was bored, he had me sit there with that tennis ball and rope and practice delivery to make sure that, so I would just sit there and I'd have an object, maybe a cardboard box or something, and almost like a yo-yo, I would sit there and when I'm watching TV, didn't have nothing else going on, and get used to my mechanics, because
Yeah.
I was the weakest link in that deal.
And keep in mind the mechanics, when, instead of going ahead and delivering the ball, if he's down there and he's at it and he's giving you that, bitch better have my money, look, can you get down there? I may grab the collar, pop him twice on the side, and then move off. And even if I feed him with the toy and give a game there, I'm still popping them on the side and praising them up while they're doing that. We're having fun. We're having that game. So if I give them a little, it's kind of like having that taste of pie just before the dinner. Make no
Yeah.
mistake, I still want the rest of the pie. And I'm still eating in order to get to that point. Do you see what I mean? So you can add little things in there that mean a lot to the dog, but still in all, you're not breaking your training protocol other than giving them and spending some time there. You spend the time there to directly manipulate that expectation that the dog feels, I'm here, I'm going to get paid. Yeah, you are. Boom, pow, pow. We're off. We're
Yeah.
off. Because truth be known, if you threw down the half ball, which is what I do when the dogs are at the rack and they're coming to me, I'll throw down a half of a ball. It'll drop right there on the ground, kind of like this. The dog will pick it up, drop it, and then go back to searching. It's not like his regular ball. You see, it's not perfectly round like the other one was. And it's incredible how astute they are to figure out what they've got and what they don't have. You throw in it, now it's still made of the fuzz and everything. Hell, I've got a pod where a whole bunch of chopped up brand new tennis balls are in that pod. They don't ever stop it where the ball's at. I can throw it at them while they're searching. And they still work toward the source because the value has all been placed there. Not over here, not over here, not over here, not down here. There. But could be wrong.
Well, I think for me, when I'm working with a toy reward dog, it's harder for me to increase the duration of reward at source. So, like a lot of what you're saying, incorporating things into your training is a way to basically effectively extend the duration of reward at source, because I can stand there with food and, have a very long duration of reward at source, whereas it's not as easy mechanically to do so with a toy.
You're right. And when we say reward the dog at source, we're not staying there for a long time. I don't care
Right.
to stay there for a long, and I never go over 3 to 5 seconds or 3 to 5 inches from there. 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and we're out of there. Now, when I'm training, I may go a little bit longer, but absence makes the heart grow fonder. You know what I mean? And if they don't get it as much, then they're working harder to get over here, to this, even though they got a little taste of it over here. And it's you train the dogs that's in front of you, and everyone that gets in front of you is going to be different. So you try to ascertain what that dog's skills, what does he bring to the table? Does he bring 60 or 70% to the table, enough for you to coach the other 30 to 40% without causing misunderstandings? And if you can do that, more importantly, if you can get it across to your students, that's the hard part. If you can get it across to your students, I think you'll see an improvement. I think it's something that, even if you don't mess with it a little bit, you'll learn something from it and be able to apply it where you want to. And That's all this is about, is having someone, pull them out and play with them, depending on what dog you happen to be training at the time. What's best for them? What can you do to get them to be more accurate, less falses? And yeah, it's stronger than dirt, but it's crystal clear. We don't mess up. We don't muddy the waters anywhere. That is clear. And we'll start muddying the waters when they get really, really good, to see if they can navigate those waters to still get to the source.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason the Snap-on tool truck guy is in business, because it takes a lot of tools to work on an engine. And all dogs are different. So
could you do
Yeah.
like a balance of both food and toy, especially like in Sarah's case where you're in the smaller search areas, and then use the toy as like the final reward? So like you're saying, like keeping that, the praise could be one thing if the dogs appreciate that, but not all dogs appreciate the praise, right? So could food be that intermediary, and then you kind of balance in when toy gets distributed based on which source they found where toy could be applicable in that particular find, right? Like if you're looking at something that's by a chair versus in a corner that's all with a bunch of other stuff nearby, maybe food may be more applicable there, right? If the dog is inappropriate for praise or moving on, right?
It's an excellent question. And what you have to realize is that if a dog likes the toy and he likes the food, he's always going to like one more than the other. And if he likes one more than the other, then that's kind of what we have to go through to increase the likelihood that we're successful when we go to trial, or when we take that dog out of our unit and run him around a suspect's car. I've deliberately manipulated that expectation where when they smell it, they try to get to it as quickly as they can in order to get the reward. And when I back away from it, I never go back to it. I'll cue them again, and we're often running on the other containers or whatever it happens to be. Clarity and understanding that value, like I say, they're always pretty much going to want the toy more than they do the food. Now, if they want the food more than they do the toy, no brainer. You go with the food. You go with the one you dance with the one that brung you. You know what I mean? Yeah, the highest value. And that increases the likelihood that you can manipulate that expectation. Well, when they get there, they expect that food. Now, when I get there, am I going to have the actual food on me? Probably. It's all going to be on my hands where I can let them. I think that's a ratio of reinforcement. It's not actually the food, but the taste of it and we're gone is good enough for that point. Does that make sense? I didn't break the chain of expectation. I put a weak link in there, but it still held up. Good point. Good question, by the way. Does that make sense to you, dear?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Good question. What up, Brother Jerry?
I'm gonna be like Forrest Gump this time, That's all I got to say about Vietnam. We're getting a lot of feedback. I'm watching the feedback. A lot of people are liking it. Actually, our mayor, I don't live in a very big city. It'd sound more impressive if we were in a larger city and the mayor said that they were enjoying the live feed. But Chris Hempfling, he's another guy that got a dog from Joey. He's talking about, a lot of law enforcement get used to doing the same thing and don't want to work with what they're not used to. And he said, I've come to see that this is what we need 100%, need to be working. And thank you for coming on. Once again, I think we'll try to sweet talk Lauren back there and see if we can't get a few videos of my old girl Omen. Because this is on the All Things Scent Work forum. And we haven't come to play in the castle yet either. We need to come play in the castle.
It's beautiful.
But that way
Yes,
people can.
This is my daughter. I was just kidding. Actually, my fiance. And I know she's a little younger than I am, but hey, you can't discriminate anymore. You can't do it,
That's right.
Are you with me?
So nice.
But yeah, that way, when we post these videos, they can kind of see a little bit in more detail what you're working about when you talk about manipulating the environment. And hey, I can't judge. I mean, I think we've had this conversation. Me or you, one of us has been married more than the others, but if we added them up together, we'd have a baseball
Hey,
team.
You got
Jeremy,
some
it's
catching up
probably
to
you.
do. You got some catching up to
I've,
do, Boo.
I've got four. I think
You're at 4
I don't
now?
know. Yeah, I've been divorced 4 times. Yeah. So see, we're tied, man. See.
Fist bump in there somewhere? No.
Uh,
It's taken me 4 times to get it right, but I got it right this time. I'm lucky.
well, I
Give it
think
to
we
you.
already did that. Carrie piped in and said introduce Lauren, but I think we did introduce Lauren. Lauren
No.
popped in there and he said, "Well, that was Lauren, Randy's fiance, that sticks her head in. There she is, Lauren. Hey, Lauren.
Hey,
Um,
everybody.
She
so
got the pageant
Lauren
way.
is. Hey, I've been trying to convince Lauren to do nose work with Denali because it's such an awesome, hot little dog that I just love watching that dog work.
That
And it
crazy
would
dog.
be
When I saw her, the first time I saw her, she was 8 months old, and I offered the guy $5,000 for her. Wouldn't take it. And she had all the tools, man. I'm sitting there looking at this dog and saying, oh my God. Every now and then you see one, you just know that motor's there. And so he wouldn't sell it. And it was about a year and a half later, the dog was 8 months at the time, about a year and a half later that I got the dog for only $2,500 because a friend of mine bought the dog from him. And it was obvious that he was, one of those muscle guys. And I think he'd been pretty hard on the dog, and the dog, wasn't going to take it. You know what happens from there. But I've
yeah.
never had a problem with her unless she thought that I was about to do something that he did. And I can identify everything he did to her by just moving around. And if I grab the toenails to clip those, she'll let you know quick. You're not doing it.
Or if I try to.
Yeah, she wanted to, but I can tell, kind of put that grease monkey on her and put a little compulsion on her that maybe she really didn't deserve or didn't need. And but yeah, if she's amazing and she's what we look for as far as a detection dog. And yeah, but I got some video clips. We'll put them up for you and let you see at some point or another. That sound good, Jeremy?
Yeah, sounds good. Something that we can go back in the forum and repost because most of this is for a scent work forum, and I think I've added you a couple years ago, all things scent work, so people can come on here, ask questions, and see things. And I think it would, honestly, as far as like posting short clips, we should probably go start as simple as, this is what we consider a high drive dog, and this is kind of what, when we talk about uh, ball drive or a dog that's going to be utilizing toy primarily, this is what we want. Because so many times you'll hear that time and time again, oh, my dog's crazy about the ball, crazy about the ball. But then they come to where you are. They drive 30 miles down the road. They come and visit you. That dog won't do anything with the ball. Well, that dog's not crazy about the ball. You'll know when it's crazy about the ball. So I think a little bit, maybe clear up a little bit of that understanding on what truly, a high drive dog looks like, and then how you manipulate the environment. Those would all be great videos for people to see.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. You just remember, guys, that I know I'm fixing to piss some people off here, but hey, I pissed them off before, so it won't be anything new. Is when you're trying to pair something and you hide the toy multiple times, dog finds it, gets to it, gets the toy, gets the game. You hide food multiple times. Oh, I just want to shape this other part or this other part over here. What you're shaping is the dog actually finding the food and getting rewarded for finding it. We want them rewarded for finding what we want to find. So we change the dynamics of it and only pay them with that food over here. Even if I'm holding them and teasing them with it, finally they break away and go over to where the source is. I follow them over there and pay. And I'm strict with it. I'm consistent with it. And as such, the dog has no trouble understanding what it is I'm trying to get across to him. And that's what this is about, guys, is being able to flawlessly have the dog understand what it is you're trying to get across to them in order to satisfy a particular task. And that's the beauty of dog training. You know, that's the beauty of owning one, is being able to communicate harmoniously instead of chaotically. And, you know, and again, I hate to sit here and sound like a know-it-all, because I'm not. I learn something new every day. And it's not important that I know it all. It's important that I try. It's important that all of us try. Cool.
Well, and I
Brother
say
Jim.
the same thing about every time I come down and train with you. I learn something new every time. Every time I'm around you, and that's in my opinion, that's the mark of a great trainer. Every time you go and you spend some time with them, you learn something new.
Well, and I learn stuff from y'all all the time. In a conversation like this, I'll learn something. It may be what not to do, but I'll learn something. and you have to look at everything that way. And then as you get closer to the twilight in life, and you're getting closer to the end of your career, it becomes more important what you leave behind, more so than what you try to argue out of somebody else. So leaving that knowledge behind and hoping somebody else one day will take it and move on forward with it, or you know, that's what dog training is about, is finding different ways and better ways to communicate with that animal who's never going to have a comprehension of the English language. Never. Our actions, what we do, when we do it, is what communicates to the dog. Cool. What else,
Right.
Brother Jay?
I think that's it. I'm not getting any more questions. Do you guys have any questions for him?
No, at
Guys,
some point I think we're all going to get together at some point, right?
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting both of you, and
So nice,
thank
Nice to
nice
you
to
know,
meet you.
the fact that you're here trying to learn a little something different. Hey, you okay in my book?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it gets any better than having the honor of watching multiple teams work the same problem over and over again,
Yeah.
because you're seeing a completely different picture. You're seeing it from the dog's perspective. So,
Right.
you know, I think there's nothing more powerful than that, right? Learning from the dog.
Oh, and as far as
You get to
we're blessed as judges for the simple fact that how many hundreds of teams do we watch a year?
Yep.
And then we're learning firsthand, just like the first time I went and certified my dog and went to one of those canine trials where it's a 3-day thing and you train all week long, then you watch, you know, then you go through certification and you're watching dogs, and you're like, okay, that dog doesn't seem to have clarity there. How did they start their dog? I started asking questions from day one.
Yeah.
Well, they started with the cocktail method. Well, we didn't do that, you know. And you start over a time period, you start taking notes. But we see success and we see failure, and we see where clearly communication needs to improve. But we have a front row seat to see how effective training can be and where dogs struggle. And then, like me, I'll take notes on, okay, how would, like personally, I don't know if it's just me. I'm sure you guys do the same thing. You know, this dog here did this. If that was my dog, how would I fix that? So it's always a learning experience. I learned so much as a judge. Now, this past weekend, I think I learned how to just be happy and smile all day long, because I've never seen. I take it back. The corgi people seem to be pretty fun too, but man, when I judged Monday the Golden Retriever National Specialty. I ain't never seen a happier group of people, but it's hard to have a bad day when you've got nothing but a bunch of golden retrievers around. And I told them, when I retire, it's going to be on a beach somewhere throwing a frisbee with my golden retriever. But I mean, it was,
just got
you know,
mine.
it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. It's all good points, and it's good to talk to good dog folks, and you know, and you know, share ideas and stuff of that nature. I was trying to think of the comment you made a while ago when you got to see a whole lot of dogs work. I used to do seminars for HIDA, high intensity drug trafficking area. I think it still means that. High intensity drug trafficking area, where all of these departments who were on the interstate would have a seminar, and they would pay me like, I don't know, $5,000 to do a 3-day seminar, which I wasn't griping, you know. Wasn't dead much. Yeah, pretty good. As part of the seminar, we would go out to work dogs, and I got a chance to see all of their dogs work. Some of them, very small percentage, were pretty damn sharp. I don't know where they came from. I don't care where they came from. The dogs knew what they were supposed to do. The antecedent of the reward object along with the cue and having the dog independently go something without the handler's influence. They knew what to do without the handler. You see, they hadn't been bombarded and directed up and down like the M&M search and all that crap that people used to do. I will take your nose like it's a Geiger counter, drag it across here, and you will hit once you get there. If you don't, I will stop and correct you and tell you to sit. That way I can pay you. Hello? You know, it's awful lot from them, more so than they did from me. Kind of felt guilty for taking the payment on it because it was such a learning experience for me watching those other dogs work and the handlers. And yeah, I had a handler once come up with his dog, and he was, doing a different method. I'm not going to say what the method was, but it was about hiding the toy until the dog figures out to hide the toy that now it smells like dope. And then they take the toy away and the dog is smelling the two things. The problem is the value is on both of those, not just one. You get this for doing that, this for that, no more than 4 inches away, no more than 4 or 5 seconds at the time. Except for in the beginning, I might do a little bit more. We're going to sit there and have some fun at that place. Every breath they take, they're inhaling that odor and getting that game at the same time. It will build value in that very, very quickly. But you never mix the two together. Otherwise, it's a cocktail. You'll have them finding your toy and then finding the source.
And we see that a lot with people that pair food with odor, and as soon as you introduce a food distractor into a search area trial, you have typically the percentage of dogs false alerting on food. Now,
yeah, you'll get out in a hurry.
I mean, I'll say this is getting better. And I understand that some dogs, they need it, but pairing shouldn't be a long-term thing. It should be a very short-term thing and then get away from it. Get away from it as soon as possible.
And I would argue, if at all.
Yeah.
If I've got something the dog loves, for him to learn he's got to find that in order to get it, and he never gets it any other place, then everything's in perspective of what he needs to do to get paid and what I have to have the dog to do in order to deprive somebody of their civil liberties, in order to establish probable cause, if you will. And when my dog went around that car, if he ever did this number here and then gave me that look, somebody was going to jail. Never had to worry about it. The dog never learned to do it one way. Well, folks, we've got to go cook supper, dinner. So it depends on where it's from. And I've enjoyed talking to all three of you. Thank you for inviting me. You get my bill in the mail there.
We're gonna come see you anyway, man. I want to play in that castle, and then we'll bring this puppy out. So
some grandbabies to fight over the castle with.
We'll let you play in the pool too. You like the pool, don't you?
Is the pool heated?
No.
Oh, well, we're running out of pool time, man.
Pool heated. And you must be
Unless it's a code plunge now. I don't know. I mean,
he coming in January.
Hey, push through it.
We might do it. We'll see. We need to probably host another weekend down there with you. Do some training. Everybody loved last year when we came down there and trained. And the one thing
who was the lady from Indiana that called and said, "Hey, something just clicked for me"?
Oh, it was either Shelly or it was Cheryl. Both. Shelly's the one that had the dog that was really environmentally sensitive. Yep. And Yep, Archer. Yep, and she's continued to work. She's been dedicated to Archer. Archer works through his problems a lot, and he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say to her is she's never give up on that dog, and she is definitely dedicated to that dog. And the other one is Cheryl with the Beagle mix, who's an awesome little dog. I mean, he's always out there performing. She called me when she went to CPE Nationals and was so nervous, and I said, "Look, I said if I'm betting money on people that are going there, I'm betting on a few people. One of them's going to be Monique and her dog, but one of them's going to be Cheryl and Nick at their level, and the other one's going to be Maddie and her Beagle. You know, I said so." I said those are the three teams I'd worry about if I'm out there at those levels. You know,
And that's the thing
but
is they may not ever win a championship anywhere, but in my book, they're already champions because they're continuing to try with the dog that they have. They're continuing to try to learn. And that's the beautiful thing about nose work. And the reason I appreciate it is those people who are trying to learn are coming up with different ideas that maybe law enforcement could use.
right. And I think that's the biggest carryover is well, one thing that frustrates me the most is when you're doing a workshop, you're out there training somewhere, somebody comes up with a really nice dog. Oh well, that's a sport dog. I heard a decoy say it a couple weeks ago. Well, stick your leg out there because this sport dog will bite you wherever you present a body part, right? The problem is if the dog looks too nice in obedience or it looks too nice in this, sometimes, not all the time, but some of the people in law enforcement want to say, oh, that's a sport dog. Well, guess what? I've always learned a lot from the sport people that had to be developmental decoys that had to build dogs in front of them that couldn't wash a dog. You know, so when you have a problem, you need to go to somebody that has that background of building hundreds of dogs along the way. Or you hear us, I had, oh, I can't remember who it was, but somebody made the comment that police dogs don't have to be accurate. And I'm like, no. So sometimes the sport people get a little bit too cocky. So when they're doing detection, well, a police dog doesn't have to be accurate. And I'm like, well, you've never certified through a few organizations where you have to be within 6 inches of source, you know? And yes, if the dog gives a behavior change, we're still opening up that vehicle and the dog's going in there and searching inside that vehicle. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to be accurate. You know, they may rip that back seat out and find the false compartment, but that's accuracy. So I think
Yeah.
if we could put egos aside, both parties could really learn a lot from each other.
Yeah, but they won't. You know, it's this the world we live in, and it's taken me a while to realize that is the ego is the dog's number one enemy in this world, the human ego. And them trying to satisfy that ego by doing certain things or down talking other people, it's just and that's the reason I'm not on social media a whole lot. I got tired of the bullshit, guys, and you know, the fighting and the squabbling going on between individuals that it's just not worth it to me anymore. I'll take the good people that want to come and learn from me and teach them everything that I can, and I'll improve your dog one way or another, you know, or you know, in certain ways or another. But yeah, everything I learned about what I'm telling you came from Schutzen. Oh, that sport dog is not going to make a police dog. That police dog's not going to make a sport dog. Well, some of them wouldn't, but some of them could do the sport and get high marks. And I promise you can take care of business as a police dog, but they're worth more money than to sit in the back of a patrol car and try to prove his moxie there. You see what I mean? Yeah. So when these dogs would actually come and they'd bite the sleeve and hold it, and the helper would slip the sleeve, you see the dog run a circle, come back to the helper and ram the sleeve back into the helper. Now, what do you think he's doing that? He's bringing it back to the source of the game.
Right.
Because that is what's important. And, you know, when I used to do helper work, I'm too old and fat now to do it, but I used to do helper work, give them a bite, slip the sleeve, they'd run circle, come right back to me and slam it back into me, and I'd grab it and fight. It was easy to understand what they wanted. The game. And if I had 9 sleeves laying on the ground, I'm running from them with another one on. Or if I'm just standing there with another one, guess who they're going to come to? source of the
Tell me
game.
about Buzzy's dog.
Yeah. All right, Randy. Well, we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Looks like we're getting a lot of positive feedback. We usually this is available to rewatch on YouTube and Facebook, so we'll actually be able to put a description on YouTube.
Well, to the ones
and
to the ones that are reacting positively, appreciate you. To the ones that are acting negatively, I appreciate you guys too. Do what you're going to do.
yeah.
Listen to folks. If it doesn't make sense to you, go another way. God bless.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And like I said, we'll probably follow up with a few posts once Lauren back there. We'll have to bribe Lauren maybe. I think I owe
Yes,
you guys
Lauren, thank you.
a
Thank
bottle
y'all
of
so much.
bourbon anyway. So we had been planning to come down and see the new house and bring you a housewarming gift anyway. So we'll have to make our way down there and say hello. But it'd be nice to follow up with some short clips on this forum so people can see what we're talking about. But we have been talking for the past 3 months, and we've been putting in more and more detail, especially me and Monique, on doing a camp, a couple of days puppy developmental with brain games. You know, not just starting on scent work, but brain games, challenging the dogs to use that brain, doing some environmental stuff, some confidence building stuff, and then some stuff for older dogs. Maybe we can sweet talk Randy into being a part of that. We'll see. I mean, he's a busy man, but would love to have you as part of that. And the other thing is, we're trying to figure out what's the best location to do something like this. Would it be up around Monique, where she's up around Chicago, or would it be somewhere like in the Nashville area, because everybody likes Nashville too? So you know. You can't complain about the food and the music in Nashville, you know?
Yeah, hard to beat. Hard to beat.
A castle?
Because we came here from Jackson, Mississippi, and won't ever go back.
Yeah.
Ever.
But
yeah,
thank you so much, and we will let you get on with your busy night, and then we'll wrap this up. But this will be available to rewatch if anybody wants to rewatch it.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. Okay.
Great
right,
meeting
thanks
you,
so much.
Randy.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Nice to meet you.
You too,
Thank
dear.
you. Nice meeting y'all.
You too.
You too.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Where do you push here?
All righty. So before we get completely off here, oh, Randy's still up there in a little corner. There he goes. All right. So do we have any more questions that we want to address?
I think
I
topics.
Yeah,
Right.
I think, did you finish your answer on novice, advanced, Jeremy?
I mean, I think so. I have a relatively simple approach to novice and advanced. As a judge, I feel like one, novice and advanced is where we, as a sport, is where we draw people in. So, I don't make them very challenging at all. It's like baby steps, right? I would think of it like, my approach to it would be, I haven't gone to the gym on a regular basis in a lot of years. So when I go in there, I'm going to start probably on the machines and ease into it. And that's what novice and advanced should be, easing into. I really think that, okay, once you get to excellent or level 3, then we can start throwing some more challenging stuff in there, where maybe the dog starts seeing a little bit of that, but not to that point. Not to, because the other thing we see is a lot of people, they only train what's level they're at. I guess that's maybe the old obedience mindset, because you used to see people that did a lot of AKC obedience. They would only train for that level they're at, whether it be novice or whatever. And my mindset has always been, I was blessed with a mentor in Schutzen, Gene England. He would have us train our dog to Schutzen 3. Then we would do our BH. Then the next weekend we'd find some place to do our 1, then 2, then 3. We were ready to go. So I always try to have my dog ready for the mat. This time I'll be doing it a little bit differently. But typically I have my dogs ready for at least masters and AKC, or level 5 in CPE or NW3 or whatever before I even go into that first trial. I'll be changing that up a little bit because now I'm going to take advantage of the level 1s and the level 2s and stick around for a little bit with the young dog and use them to help developmentally on that puppy because I want to get back into IGP. So I feel like the more I expose her to the crowds and the trial experience, the better off she's going to be when we get to something else. But no, I mean, I think Monique said it well, and I think you said it well. But yeah, there shouldn't be difficulty at level 1, level 2. I don't start challenging dogs a little bit till level 3, and then I really don't start challenging them until level 5 in CPE. I always say I'm a nice guy until masters in AKC. And then sometimes I'm nice guy masters. It'll just be the mental game. Like this
Right.
past weekend, one hide blank, one hide. And when you only put out one hide, what do people do? They overthink, right? Well, no, this judge, there's no way. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And we had an 85% Q rating in masters, which you can't complain about. And that makes people happy. So, I think that it should be, stair stepped. And
I mean, I even think that trials shouldn't really be testing the team's like utmost abilities. I really don't. And I know that there are some judges that disagree with that and they really want to present teams with like a complicated challenge, but I don't really feel like that's the point of a trial. I think you want to set up reasonable
right,
challenges for teams at that level, but I'm not trying to trick anybody. I'm not, I do sometimes try to trick the handler though. I mean, that's
yeah,
definitely from a mental game standpoint, because people think, oh, that like, I'll do a search area in a picnic area where there's no hides on the picnic tables, right? So that people are like searching the picnic tables. And, I try to do a lot of things where you just really have to trust your dog and the environment in
right,
the environment. But I don't really feel like, you're supposed to trick people. I don't think that's
right.
what the game I don't think that should be the name of the game. I
No,
think the name of the game should be slowly building people up so that they
right,
have confidence in their ability and their dog's ability. Um, and then, and that's when you get to like level C and detective is where you start to really see the teams that have that teamwork that have built up along where you build both the handler and the dog. They're the ones that are successful. And that's what we want to build, in my opinion.
right. And even when in detective, it should be challenging but fun. So,
Yes,
Yes.
I
absolutely.
don't purposely set out to be an a-hole, although my first time at Monique's, probably everybody called me an a-hole, because I mean, I stuck out
You
a
didn't know what you were walking into until you were in it, so it was all right.
yeah, yeah. So there's the wild weenie fiasco where everybody in the whole club, I guess, trained with wild weenies, and I stuck out in the search area at a certain level, and dogs went bananas. So
Well, I think it's something that maybe we can bring up at another discussion is how do we help people train through food distractors?
yes,
Because I think this is pretty a universal problem that I see in my own students and other, and competitors. And I think I think there's a lot of different ways to approach it. So I think that's like a totally different topic of discussion. I think that would be really great is how do we teach people to train through food distractors to proof off of food, you
Yep.
know?
absolutely. And I think that we'll just make a note and we'll do that next next month. Uh, I touched on that briefly when I taught my class at the Canine Cop Conference. I started off because we did a classroom portion, then live demo. And the live demo, I started off with the puppy. Now she's 16, 17 weeks at this point. Um, Now her breeder did an excellent job, and then her breeder's trainer did an excellent job helping build those puppies, exposing them to stuff. So I've got to give credit where credit is due. So Ava and Eric did a wonderful job. Even Emily, Eric's wife, did a wonderful job with those puppies up to the point. Uh, but I had the dog literally at my house 2, maybe 3 days tops before I load her up and we go to a conference with like 600 people in Nashville, and we're living in a hotel for 3 days. And I'm live demoing in my class. It probably had 75 to 100 people putting the 2 pods out, and she'd only seen the pods like 3 times. And I'm calling her over here, trying to pull her off with food. Hey, shaking the food, yelling, hey, hey, whoop. And she's, goes, she may look, but she goes right back to source. Boom, there's a reward. And, we created that from the first session. But yeah, we can throw in highlights of that. We can talk about other ways to do it. I think that would be a great conversation for next time.
Yeah, and I know we had brought up at one point talking about the changes to AKC buried as well. So
Oh,
maybe
yes.
that's also something else that we can kind of chat about in the future.
Yeah, because that hasn't taken effect yet, and we are getting a little bit long on this video. But yeah, at least it'll definitely make it easier for us to move around. If we were doing this earlier in the year, we could have talked about the rule change for CPE vehicles.
Yeah. Yes.
Because the first time I made that announcement in front of a group of people, I just got looks like, "What are you doing? You're just making this up."
Mm.
Because it wasn't updated on their website, and it was only available to us through that judges forum. So it was.
Well, and I wasn't even on the judges forum until today.
I had to send her an invite
Really?
because she said, "Hey, where do you
And
find
I'm
the
judging
vehicle
in
rules?"
CPE this weekend.
Oh goodness. Well, there we
So-
go.
So I sent her an
So
invite
look,
and
it's a
said,
good thing that Jeremy had told me before, because I was like, he's like, it's not in the rule book, but it's on the Facebook page. And I was like, what Facebook page?
Well, and not only that, though, not even just impacted the judges, but I started, as soon as I heard about it, I was routing it to host clubs that I was judging for, because we're going to walk in with a handful of kitty cars, right? And
Yeah.
they're not going to match the amount that you need to successfully complete this. And then guess what? All the complaints of, well, don't do what is it, nested hides and all that other jazz because it becomes too easy. Well, you have no choice now when all of your
Right.
kitty cars are gone because the
Right.
host club isn't ready.
And that's the thing. CPE. I mean, especially with some of the venues you have no choice but to. This
Right.
isn't AKC, and I literally had a lady say, "Well, AKC doesn't do it." Well, this isn't AKC.
Right.
And I'm sorry if I offend you, but I'm doing what's allotted within the rules and what they give me the environment to work with. So sometimes you're going to see the same vehicle. We're just going to make it work because that's all we have. If you want to do better and start by updating the rules, and they'll probably hate me for this, but that as soon as that rule change went into effect, it should have gone on the main webpage and people should have been made aware.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because you can replace full-size vehicles with smaller things, but you need a lot of them.
Yes.
Yes.
Monique has a lot because we went through a lot when I was down there judging with her. But it was nice because she also has a lot of full size vehicles, which makes it
Right.
easy. So for lower levels, I put put a lot of cars out for level 1 and 2, the little kitty cars, and then 3, 5, and everything else. Look, we had the full size vehicles, which makes it really nice. So,
Yeah.
but you just have to. It's preparation, and these clubs need to make sure that they have enough to be prepared. So, yeah.
Lots to chat about.
Yes.
So next time, folks, join us next time. We'll have some more stuff to talk about. Definitely talk about buried, how it affects training, if at any. We will talk about when it kicks. I think it takes effect in November,
October 1st.
October
Yeah.
1st.
So next
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
I'm hoping we'll have some. I'm gonna ask if, like, as soon as I start judging in October, I'm gonna ask people if I can video, because I'd like to just really get observation on it, because I have mixed feelings about it on what it's gonna do. Like,
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure that it's gonna make it easier, like they are theorizing. It'll
yeah,
be easier on my back,
yes,
and it may be easier at novice, but
yeah.
I'm wondering if that, like, empty space between the grid and the substrate is going to create more pooling.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be to see what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
In the cold bins, right? If you have a little tiny bit of sand and that big void between the grate and the sand, will that cold bin become like pooling odor in there? You know,
Mhm.
and I don't know. That's why I want to see. I would be interested to see.
Yeah. I mean, the only way we're going to know is after we watch, you know, couple weekends of trials in the dogs and we start seeing it in all environments. Because one of the things I say about people struggling with buried is, look, you have to take that buried container because it is different, and sit it out in grassy areas, sit it out
Yep.
in gravel, sit it out in sand, on concrete, in rooms that have a lot of airflow, because it is so much different than the other things. So you know, this could change the game.
Right. Well, I mean, or if it's inside a hot gym, right?
Yes.
On a gym floor with little airflow, or little to no airflow, what is that going to look like, right?
Yeah.
You have a master container search with 8 sands, 8 waters, 4 hides theoretically. What will that look like when you're inside on a shiny gym floor with no air conditioning and no air movement?
Yeah.
Or at a fairground between 2 buildings.
Right, with a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, we will pick this up next month. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It seems like, you know, people are enjoying what we're doing, and we are plugging away and making plans behind the scenes for camp next year. So, thank you, Monique and Lori, for joining us, and thank you for everybody tuned in. I want to thank Randy and Lauren for taking, you know, time out of their day and doing this. I always enjoy these chats, and hopefully I will see some of you really soon. I know that I'll probably see Monique before I see you, but thank you as you know, as usual. But both of you are. I want to thank you for just, sometimes I just have to vent. So sometimes, you know, I can vent to you guys and you understand as judges and dealing with some of the stuff. But it's also nice to have kind of like that support structure there too.
100%.
Yep. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
All right,
both.
guys.